Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers,
Hello and welcome to episode 252 of the AFTN podcast. I am failed WFC2 trialist Joe Deasy. I'm joined by the voice of TSS Rovers and UBC Soccer, calling in from Surrey. He hates teams that copy the Viking clap, Gideon Hill.
Hey guys.
And also, the tallest man I know, he is actively mourning the death of the false nine, Nicolaas Rupprecht.
It's not dead yet.
I read an article today that... all right, so we're going to start our show like we start our show every week. I think we've all had enough summaries of what happened in Atlanta, but we just need a little bit more. So we're going to cover the game in our own unique way. Complete the sentences. I have 3 sentences, and you guys have to complete them for me and fill them in with your thoughts. So, sentence number 1. Ismail El-Fath is a blank. Gideon.
Ismail El-Fath is a referee.
Okay.
Neutral.
Factually correct.
I chose to bite my tongue on that one, so let's
Good.
just go with that.
All right, Nicholas. Ismail El-Fath is a...
Star player for Team Yellow.
Okay.
He took over the game with a bold decision.
Okay, I said Ismail El-Fath is a crowd pleaser. If you listen to the previous AFTN show, Michael McCall has written an article on his home bias. I think that was the conclusion of the article. That's the conclusion I drew. Anyway, okay, sentence number 2. Eric Hurtado should blank. Gideon.
Eric Hurtado should keep his haircut.
Certainly not the worst haircut we've seen from
If
E-Money.
he scores goals, keep it. I mean,
Yeah, true.
what else can go wrong?
Nicholas, Eric Hurtado should...
Play more away games.
Okay, good. We'll talk about the home versus away thing later.
We constantly come back to this every week.
Eric Hurtado should get more props because he has like the highest goal per game percentage or goals per minute percentage or
Goals per minute.
Yeah, for the team. Not that he gets a lot of minutes, but anyway. Number 3, the best part of the game against Atlanta was blank.
I would say Martinez's hat trick. Full credit to him. That was a good.
How dare you? in this house. Okay, Gideon. The best part of the game against Atlanta was...
Martinez missing all those penalties, or empty nets rather, or the Chick-fil-A at the stadium, because I know the fans enjoyed that.
Okay. I said the best part was Robbo trying to hide his face in a ball when after so many calls went against. Yeah. Okay, so I think we've done a pretty good job covering the Atlanta United 4-1 away loss for the Vancouver Whitecaps. We look ahead here at AFTN Studio, aka Joe's house, to the next game. The Whitecaps' next game is a home game, 4th game of the season, against LA Galaxy. There's a lot to talk about in the Galaxy. They're not exactly having the best of times, especially this coming week. It's looking pretty threadbare for them. But they did have a bye week last week, so the players that are available will be rested.
True, but I mean, I think we'll get to the list of players who are missing. I mean, that list of players is a full starting 11 anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that bye week will
that's true.
do them any well.
Last week, the last week that LA played, actually we have to say LA Galaxy right now because there's two LA teams. They lost 2-1 to NYCFC, who, to be fair, are looking really good this season.
Supporter Shield candidate.
Yeah, Jonathan Dos Santos got a goal. Ashley Cole got a red card. It was a 4-2-3-1, and they're 1-1 to start the season. Gideon, any kind of things that have stood out to you about the Galaxy so far?
I think they're, like we talked about last week, they're a different team for sure than last year. I think the addition of Kamara has added a whole other dimension to their starting 11, although he is out for the weekend with international duty. I still think they've added dimension and not just building from the midfield, but they can just now put balls in the box and try and get on the end of it rather than making 1-2s and breaking to the net that way.
Yeah, Ola Kamara seems to be their focal point moving forward.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be there this week. There's so many players that are missing for the Galaxy. It's actually, I don't think I've seen anything like it. The only time I can think of something similar happening was Portland last year, but the Caps lost that game.
Yeah.
When Portland were missing so many players. A lot of fans on Twitter have drawn comparisons to that Portland game last year, but do you guys think it's kind of the same situation?
I think it's a bit earlier in the season, right?
The Portland game was right towards the end, I remember.
Yeah. So, there's a little less motivation perhaps at the beginning of the year, right? Yeah. I don't know. Or towards the end of the year. But I think that, they're going to be depleted, and I think the Whitecaps need to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different than the Portland game last year because LA are missing at least 8 key players, and Portland were only missing 4 or 5 that were starters, I think, from what I can remember. So, LA's probably missing about 8 of their starting 11, which is tough for them. So I think this LA game will be a little bit more easier than the game against Portland, but again, you can't take them lightly at any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, they still do have Boateng, I think.
Right?
Yeah, and he can burn you for speed for sure.
And Sebastian Lletget.
Yeah.
But we'll go through the list of players that are unavailable, and the 2 we just mentioned are just about the only 2 that are still gonna play the last game and this game. So if we look at their starting lineup from their loss to NYCFC, 6 out of the 11 players are out. Ola Kamara has his first international call up with Denmark. Norway. Sorry, he's not good enough for Denmark. Giovanni Dos Santos and Jonathan Dos Santos are both out. Are they both injuries, or I think Giovanni Dos Santos?
Yes, injuries.
Okay, they're both injuries. Perry Kitchen is out. He's one of their central midfielders. Siami in the back line, I hope I said that right, and is out with injury. And Ashley Cole is serving his 1-match suspension following his red card against New York City. So lots of big players. Oh, and Alessandrini is out with an injury, and Joao Pedro is also out with a long-term injury. The one the one hope they have is that Chris Pontius might be back from his injury in time for this game. But it is a turf game, and we know how in the history LA Galaxy players have avoided playing on the turf in Vancouver.
Yeah, that's true.
So some big players missing, and they don't have the best team to begin with. Do you think it really is just a throwaway game for the Galaxy this weekend?
They might set up in that way. I could see it being maybe he gives some of the academy, products more time to play, And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing for LA Galaxy because I don't think they're really going to be challenging for MLS Cup or anything this year. Maybe squeak into the playoffs, but I think it's a good idea. I think they're trying to get a little bit younger, especially considering how they've been playing, but then again, they might sign
Brahimovic,
yes.
Yeah, he would be a difference maker.
He would be a difference maker.
I would feel bad for Ola Kamara if they did sign Brahimovic, because it's kind of easy.
Put 2 up front, I'm sure.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah.
Gideon, all these players missing, what do you think the atmosphere in the team is right now at this away trip? It's a tough away trip too, right?
It is, and I don't think LA has the best record in Vancouver either, in the last couple of years anyways, for that matter. So I think it's not a throwaway game for LA because they still do have a pretty strong team. They have a couple guys that can go in the back line, and they made some good depth signings as well this year with Servando Carrasco. So I think he'll play in there, and I think they'll still be a pretty strong team despite all those guys out.
I was looking through the roster for LA Galaxy while preparing for this, and a big question came to me. who are the difference makers? Like we think in the past, like I'm not thinking David Beckham. I'm thinking more like, Landon Donovan, Robbie Keane, like who could just turn a game on its head in a couple of minutes. They lost Jelle Van Damme last season. Yeah. The guy who, De Jong, the guy who like almost killed a Spanish player in the World Cup final. They lost Nigel De Jong. They lost Jermaine Jones in the off season. Like some big reputation players. Do this team have difference makers anymore? I
think, if you look at Alessandrini for sure.
Yeah.
I think he can. He's been fantastic. Like when the couple of games that that I've seen him in, he's a fantastic winger. He can cut inside. He's got a great shot, excellent passing, good vision, can get wide, can go burn you in on the inside too. So I think, maybe it kind of feels like maybe they're building the team around wingers now, perhaps more than
strikers.
And
if they do get Ibrahimovic, they'll have a leader. Maker, I suppose.
But even Ola Kamara, he's great for the MLS. He's a great player. Full credit to him.
Gideon, who's the difference maker for you on this team?
I think Nick touched on it for sure, Alessandrini. I think for me personally, Giovanni Dos Santos is irregular. Like he can change games whenever. So I think he wouldn't be the guy for me. It would be Jonah Dos Santos and Ola Kamara as well. Those guys can get a ball and spread it out wider for Kamara. It's a thumping header to tie or break the game even. So I think those guys for me are guys that change it in a second and they can really excite you with their play.
Has Dos Santos met your expectations? Like the big DP signing? Like, do you think has he hit his ceiling in MLS yet?
Giovanni or Jonathan?
Giovanni Dos Santos.
Giovanni? Yeah. I don't think he's done as well as people maybe expected him to be. Because whose shoes was he was filling, right?
Yeah, Robbie
Keane, right? Yeah. And that he was a fantastic player for the LA Galaxy. And I mean, they're not the same player for sure, but I don't think he's been able to be the difference maker that Robbie Keane has been, if I was to compare him to who he's replacing.
We make them very good in Ireland, strikers.
Pump them up, that's our goal.
Robbie Keane might still be the best Irish forward, even though he's pretty much retired. That's a depressing thing to say. We have Jonathan Walters, for God's sake. He's still getting capped. Okay, moving on a little bit. Sigi Schmid is the coach of the LA Galaxy now. He's been playing a 4-2-3-1 this season. Right away, it jumped out to me, is this too attacking for a team of LA Galaxy's current posture in the league, current reputation in the league, right? Do you think they should be playing something a bit more conservative?
I don't think that they need to be playing a bit more conservative. I think he's actually playing more with what he has. He has really good wingers. I mean, he has Alessandrini, and you have Boateng as well, right? And they're not playing up maybe the middle as much as the classic, LA Galaxy tiki-taka kind of play that they used to have. I guess my only question is, what will the front office do? Because it's LA, you can get those star players. Well, if you jam a star player in there, I'm thinking back to some of the Jermaine Jones. He didn't really work out that well.
No.
So my question then, I guess, is I think he's gonna stick with the wing play. That's what he has. That's what he can use, and I think he can do it to good effect. I mean, he's coached in the MLS for how many years now?
A lot.
He has a huge resume, many trophies. You know.
But he was in charge during their horrible season last year. Most of it.
Yeah, I mean,
it is his first full season.
Did he not come in halfay?
Yeah,
came in halfway.
The other guy,
or less halfway.
Yeah, the other guy got fired pretty early.
Yeah,
but, they got dealt a bad hand, to be fair. The first Robbie Keane post big DP, big DP, not just big DP.
Yeah,
signings or team, I should say. So with all those players that we mentioned missing, the midfield will be a little bit light, but also the back line. They have 2 players missing in the back line and 3 players missing in the midfield. Mm-hmm. That's probably the place the Caps could look to take advantage the most. Both their central midfielders that started in New York are out. So I'm sure we're going to talk later about how the Whitecaps squad selection should look in that sense. So you've heard our thoughts of the game. Earlier today, Michael McCall, the editor of AFTN, got in touch with Josh Guesman of the Corner of the Galaxy podcast to see what the enemy camp was going to make of this game.
So I'm joined now by Josh Guesman from the Corner of the Galaxy website and podcast to talk about all things LA Galaxy looking forward to this match at the weekend. So thanks so much for doing this, Josh.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Now, first thing we really have to talk about, I mean, Corner of the Galaxy has been going since 2009. In that time, you've been used to a lot of success with the Galaxy. They've won MLS Cups, they've done well in the West every season. What was it like last season, and how did the fan base react to the team not even making the playoffs?
Yeah, obviously in Los Angeles and with LA Galaxy fans, they're very used to being at the top of the table and not at the bottom of the table. As a matter of fact, the LA Galaxy finishing 8-18-8 with just 3 home wins last year was the worst LA Galaxy finish in franchise history. So that's 22 years of history that sort of went up in smoke in 2017. So it wasn't a good reaction, as you might expect, and I think there was added pressure, obviously, because LAFC was right across the street and getting ready to start up, and so I think Galaxy fans and the Galaxy organization really sort of put an emphasis on the 2017 season, and of course that blew up in their face due to, I think, some poor roster construction, and some real lack of leadership and direction from the front office down through the players and the coaching staff.
Yeah, I know you had Kurt on Alpha, and I have to say he's been the grumpiest coach I've spoken to in my time covering the Whitecaps. But that also goes back to when I covered WFC2 and I spoke to him for the USL site. But you've got a veteran now in Sigi Schmid. People were maybe wondering, would it just be to the end of the season? Would he stick around? He's still here. From what you've seen in the 2 games so far, there's been a win against Portland, there was a loss to New York City. Does it feel he's managed to turn this team round, or is it far too early to say that?
Well, whenever Sigi came on, one of the prerequisites was that he was going to get complete control over personnel, and that was something that Kurt Onalfo didn't have, and I certainly think that hurt Onalfo's legacy with the LA Galaxy, with Pete Vagenas being the general manager, and I really think that a lot of the roster building was probably the lack of the front office understanding what they needed to do. And so when Sigi came in, he took over personnel decisions without the general manager tag, but it's almost, he still acts that way. So I would still think that he's basically the general manager here. But he brought in his son as well, Kurt Schmidt, and along with Johan Karofsky, they jettisoned 15 players in the offseason, brought in about 13 or 14 players now by all accounts. So they really wiped the slate clean, and that included a lot of the young talent that the Galaxy were developing. So, I think they got a lot of it right. I think maybe they got rid of too many young players, but that's a personal opinion more than anything. And when you look at the team compared just in the first 2 games with any of the games in 2017, 2017 was lacking depth. They had so many injuries. The depth was super important, and with the lack of depth, they struggled throughout the entire season. Now you look at the first 2 games, and you can see the depth is definitely there. They did a better job shoring up positions of need. Right back was a position of need. They went out and got Rolf Felcher. They got another center back in Jorgen Skjelvik. They went out and got a defensive midfielder in Perry Kitchen. So there's been some really good additions, and of course one of the big ones was Giassi Zardes being traded to Columbus for Ola Kamara, and I think Ola Kamara really fits the style the Galaxy are looking to play right now. So, in terms of what they did in the offseason, I give them an A on that. When you look at what they did in terms of, just these first 2 games, it's really hit and miss. Against Portland, I think they were the better team, but they also got outpossessed and outshot. But they controlled that game for a lot of the important bits. So you look at that as a good outing for them. Then you go into New York City without Ramon Alessandrini, really the guy who creates most of the offense there. And New York City playing on that postage stamp of the field at Yankee Stadium is not anything I wish on anybody. The Galaxy had a horrible first half and did better in the second half. Maybe the better in the second half was due to the fact that Giovanni Dos Santos got injured in the first half and that he wasn't on the field in the second half. So, it's been hit and miss. I've told all of my listeners and all the people who will listen to me, basically, it's going to be hit and miss the first half of the season. This Galaxy team is a work in progress. We don't know what we're getting yet out of any of these players. There's still question marks about the defense, about the offense, about goalkeeping. So pretty much anywhere you look, there's question marks, and I think we've sort of proven that in the one win and the one loss so far.
Yeah, I mean, getting Ola Kamara, for me, was a huge one. I would have loved him here. My dream was like a Kamara partnership up front here in Vancouver. I just think that would have been electric. He's a guy that's going to definitely score goals for the Galaxy this season. Now, this weekend, though, I mean, you talk about you're not really sure what you're going to get from the Galaxy in the first half of the season. We're not even really sure who we're going to see on the pitch for the Galaxy this weekend. Reading your site tonight, looks like 11 players could be missing from this one. Some injured, some away on international duty, some coming back from injury that probably won't get risked on the turf that we have here. I mean, do you have an idea? Is it going to be a B team, or, I mean, what's it going to be like this weekend?
I think if the Galaxy can dress 18 players, some minor miracle happened. They have 26 players on the roster, just to give you an idea. Right now we're looking at the possibility of 11 players being gone, and you have to remember 3 of the players that are on the roster are goalkeepers. Yeah. So you're down to like 12 or 13 players, realistically, of who you're going to be able to sit on the bench. There's long-term injury to Bradford Jamieson, a concussion. You have an injury that may be returning with Joao Pedro, which is a hamstring injury. He may be available, but he's not a starter. And if he's available, he'll probably play because they'll need all the bodies, but not necessarily a huge thing. Ramon Alessandrini is still sort of day-to-day with a hamstring issue, so we'll see if he comes back for Vancouver. I would say not, because really the Galaxy have sort of shifting allegiances for this game. Yes, they want to try to pick up or steal any points they can from Vancouver, but they have a home match against LAFC, their rival, on March 31st, and that is certainly probably more of a priority right now than this game, especially with all the guys. Ola Kamara won't be there because of national team duty. Emer Clemento won't be there because of national team duty. Both Giovanni Dos Santos and Jonathan Dos Santos have hamstring injuries and will not play in this game, or at least it's unlikely that Giovanni Dos Santos plays in this game. There's some talk that maybe he'll be back to training here soon. Chris Pontius is a game-time decision. So, I mean, we could go on, but realistically, I think of the 11 players, you might get 2 back, max. And so you're looking at a team that has 9 players missing. And that includes Ashley Cole, their captain, who got 2 yellow cards in the City game and will be out for the Vancouver game for sure. So, yeah, lots of guys missing.
I mean, the thing with the Galaxy, we know the Galaxy play exciting, attacking football, and in a game like this, they're maybe not going to be able to, but then they're going up against a Whitecap side as well that like to sit back, give away possession and hit on the counter. Although at home, the Whitecaps are more of an attacking team. It looks like, barring Kendall Waston, who's away with Costa Rica, it's going to be a full-strength team. Kai Kamara's back training this week. Marcel de Jong's back. If the Galaxy get a point out of this, is that going to be seen as a victory? Do you think they'll sit back, or will they fancy maybe shocking Vancouver?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly room for an upset here, but if you were to give the Galaxy a point right now, there might be cheering in the streets. I think that if you're Sigi Schmid, and I never like to see this from a coach, and certainly he's not going to tell his players this, but I mean, you write off this game against Vancouver. Yeah. It's the beginning of the season. Yes, it's a Western Conference opponent, but it's away. You have to win your home games in MLS, and the home game coming up on the 31st is more important than the away game right now. So trying to push anybody who's borderline back into the lineup is probably not a smart thing to do. So you're going to see a younger team. There's been some talks of perhaps Efren Alvarez, the 15-year-old LA Galaxy Academy player who signed with LA Galaxy 2, their USL affiliate last year, and now has just been signed with the LA Galaxy, the senior team. Talks that perhaps he could make a roster for the first time, and maybe he could get some minutes. So if you're going to use this that way, I think that's probably the best way. Could the Galaxy come out and shock somebody? Sure, they could. I just don't think anybody would be expecting that at this point.
Yeah, I remember speaking to the Radio Cascadia show last August when the Whitecaps were going to play Dallas, and I was like, yeah, this is a game they're just going to write off and kind of forget about. And then the Whitecaps put out a really fringe lineup and won 4-0 and got their first ever win in Dallas. So strange things can happen. But I mean, you've mentioned there about LAFC. Just before we kind of wind up, have to ask you about that rivalry. I mean, I love local rivals. I'm from Scotland. I'm used to fierce local rivalry there. What's it been like in the city? Because, I mean, Chivas were never really big rivals of the Galaxy, but with all respect to them. But now the Galaxy really have a strong rival. Does it feel like there's a big buzz amongst the soccer community there?
Yeah, there is. I've been asked to sort of characterize the rivalry, and I think the Galaxy fans would characterize it as not one yet, but they're doing that because they're saying no games have been played and that LAFC hasn't won anything yet. And I understand that sort of tact from them. So I'll respect that tact. But at the same time, there's a rivalry. They hate each other already. Murals go up and murals go down constantly from the two. There's a real sort of animosity brewing. The March 31st game is sold out, and it was sold out earlier this week, so it's sold out almost 2 weeks ahead of time.
Wow.
That's a big deal for a stadium, where the LA Galaxy play that holds, let's say, we'll guess right now and say 27,000 because that number moves all the time, but I'm expecting that it's anywhere between 25 and 27,000 people in Los Angeles. Trying to get that many people excited for a game is going to be interesting. Plus, it'll be the first chance for LAFC fans to see their team in their city. So there's obviously going to be a large influx of the traveling, quote-unquote, traveling fans of Hub Center as well. So it's going to be really interesting. I think the game has a hype about it that I haven't seen since probably the Galaxy played the New York Red Bulls back in David Beckham era, where Landon Donovan went at it with I think Thierry Henry, and so I mean that was a glitz and glamour and buzz around the stadium, and you can already feel that for LAFC. So I mean, if you're looking for something to make sure that the Galaxy are pushed and maybe even pulled into this next MLS 3.0, LAFC is there prodding the horse right now, and I think the Galaxy are certainly there and talking and willing to outspend and do anything that they can to make sure that they stay above LAFC. There's two goals now. It's always for the LA Galaxy to win an MLS Cup, and now it's to make sure that they always beat LAFC as well. So it's a fun time, I think, to be watching Los Angeles soccer.
Yeah, it certainly is. I just as an outsider, I'm really looking forward to these games. Just before we let you go, just to put you on the spot, do the Galaxy make the playoffs this season?
Yeah, I think they're borderline. Well, I mean, can they stay healthy? That's sort of my caveat right now. Stay healthy, yeah. They're right on that border. I think that they're 6-5 in the Western Conference, maybe even better than that. But we just haven't seen enough. So if you put me on the spot, I will guess yes right now. But that ensures that they have to stay healthy, and so far that has not happened this season. In 2 games, it certainly hasn't happened with all these injuries basically all happening since the Galaxy started their season. So everybody was healthy coming out of preseason, and there's 8 injuries right now that are to, I think, about 6 or 7 starters when you look at it. And so that's going to be the real determination of whether this Galaxy team can even play together long enough to start putting up wins on the board here.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Josh. Just before you go, just let everyone know where they can find you online and where they can read all your stuff and hear the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Galaxy Podcast. That was easy. And please head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. That's where you can find all of our podcasts, all of our written articles where we focus right there on the LA Galaxy. So I appreciate you. Thanks for having me. That's
great. Thank you so much, Josh, and thanks so much for your time.
I want to live in Los Angeles, not the one in Los Angeles, not the one in South California. They got one in South Patagonia. I want to live in Los Angeles, not the one in Los Angeles.
So that's our preview for the LA Galaxy so far. And coming up is my favorite part of the show. It is, Do You Know Who I Am? Okay, gentlemen, do you know who I am? Again, my favorite part of the show, because I have no pressure, and I get to research on Wikipedia random MLS players.
Wiki drip.
Easy for you, Joe. You have the easy job.
Yeah.
We should have another podcast called the MLS Rabbit Hole, where you just click on links in Wikipedia and stay inside the MLS context. That would be really good. Maybe if we have a bye week, we should do our preview pod should be MLS Rabbit Hole pod. Let us know what you think.
I like it.
Okay, so I have found a MLS player.
Mm-hmm.
And the rules for people who haven't haven't heard it before, I will give rounds of clues. So there'll be one clue, and then both players will have a chance to answer. They have to say stop in case they answer at the same time. And the first player to guess the right player wins. And if no one gets it, I win, I guess. Because so far in the season, Gideon is leading Nicolaas 2-1.
2-1, yeah.
So this is our fourth game on our fourth podcast. So, clue number 1, gentlemen. I was born on May 2nd, 1983 in Jutiapa. And I'm not going to tell you what country that is. I definitely said that wrong. No guesses so far?
No guesses.
I'm surprised.
No guesses for me.
Clue number 2. I used to play for the Rapids. Okay. No guesses?
No guesses. No guesses.
No guesses, Gideon?
No.
Okay. I'm glad, because last week it was terrible. Okay. Clue number 3. I played in the Premier League for 2 different teams, one of which were orange.
Stop.
Yes, Gideon?
Minor Figueroa.
Damn it, Gideon! Yes, it is Minor Figueroa. The fourth clue was I have won the FA Cup, and the fifth clue was I scored a goal from my own half for the team that won the 2013 FA Cup.
Wow.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got that one.
I have 146 caps for Honduras. And I am a left back or centre back for FC Dallas. I am Minor Figueroa. Congratulations, Gideon. And
Thank you.
The season standings are now Gideon 3, Nicolaas 1. No pressure, Nick. And that was this week's Do You Know Who I Am? Okay, so that game's out of the way. We can now look ahead to how the Whitecaps should approach this home game against LA Galaxy this Saturday night at 7 p.m. or 7:07 p.m. is the actual kickoff. So we've discussed profusely on this podcast about the Caps' different styles, home and away. I guess the most direct question for this is Christian Teixeira going to play? Then if he's playing, we're probably playing at home, right?
Yeah.
So stylistically, after those 2 road games, what do you think is going to be different?
Well, I think considering how a bit depleted the LA Galaxy are, they're probably not going to come out and run at us. They're probably going to sit back a little bit deeper. They're playing more of the wings. They have Boateng, for example. I keep on coming back to him.
He's a great player.
He is a really good...
Very low center of gravity. Every time I see him, I think you're probably N'Golo Kante, so you should be playing in central midfield. But he's a winger.
That's a great comparison.
he does look like N'Golo Kante, and same like low center of gravity and like moves very fast off the ball and things like that. Yeah. But he's a winger. You're right.
Yeah.
You know?
But yeah, I think the Caps are going to need to try to bring in their more creative players to try to find some holes and try to break down LA Galaxy.
Who specifically do you mean by more creative players?
Well, this again goes back to Teixeira, right? He also has a low center of gravity.
Yeah, he could man-mark Boateng.
He could man-mark Boateng, maybe. But like he also brings that set-piece threat that and I think LA Galaxy have conceded a couple times this year on maybe set pieces. I'd have to double check that. But yeah, I think again we have a great threat on set pieces. I think bringing him in makes sense at home.
Gideon, what do you think about the Caps style for this home game?
Yeah, I think for me personally, it's we play night and day away from BC Place, and I think in that sense at home. We kind of hold the ball. We try to create chances from the back line up, and I think away we try to chase the ball. We hold possession when we can, and I think that plays into the hands of the Whitecaps as well at home. And they're a good team at home. Like I said, they like to build up, and like Nick said, I think we will see a Reyna in there, or maybe a Blondell or somebody like Felipe playing in an attacking role to try and create chances, because there will be lots of space in the midfield as the players for LA that'll be there aren't necessarily built to their system or haven't started a game for them this year.
I'm not going to lie, that Portland game last season where we played that like weak Portland team and still lost. Like it really it left a bad taste in my mouth. But like, and I'm one of those people who saw correlations between like what we're seeing right in the run up to this game and that game last season. So from a style point of view, I just want the Caps to go at it. I just want them to like really have a lot of energy and not just assume that this is going to be a win.
I mean, but usually for the first 20 minutes or so in a lot of the home games, the Whitecaps go out and are attacking.
Yeah, usually. If they can attack, if they can like get the roots forward that they can.
Yeah. And I mean, I think in this game though, we should be able to see that because I would wait that our midfield will be better than their midfield in terms of quality for this game at least.
I would hope so.
Like, I just think, normally, as Nick said, we like to press in the first 20 minutes of the game, but in regards to this game, the players that will be playing in the midfield for LA or in the defensive side of things, they, like I said, probably haven't started a game yet, so I think we need to spread out the attacking and kind of tire them out throughout the game and not just go for it in the first 20 minutes and we be tired.
Yeah, this leads to like kind of the bigger tactical question as to formation. So we saw 3 at the back.
Boo!
The curse of 3 at the back.
Curse of 3.
We don't think it's going to be 3 at the back again because we don't actually have 3 fit center backs.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Apparently, Daniil Henry is back in training, but probably not yet for him.
Ready.
I think.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Formation?
I think it has to be a 4-2-3-1.
4-2-3-1, Nick?
I would agree completely.
I think it could be a more attacking 4-1-4-1, but I do believe 4-2-3-1 would be the better way to go. But I wouldn't be shocked if I saw a 4-1-4-1 with Tybert being the middle, the pivot, right? The anchor, as they say.
I just think we need more coverage in the back right now with Aha and Mon, more of a new central pairing.
That's very true. Like, because if on the counter-attack...
They're going to be looking for the counter-attack.
But Aha and Mon, they're not good defenders to counter-attack. Like, they'll be... I mean, defending-wise, they're not good at defending counter-attacks, right? Mm-hmm. Like, they don't seem like the fastest. We've only had one game of Aha, but... Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we kind of arrived at the conclusion that Teixeira will probably slot back in. But the next big question is, where does Davies play? Or does he play? Is this like a Robbo rotation special and we see Davies come out? What do you guys think?
I wouldn't mind seeing him come out. Honestly, it's and I think I wouldn't be surprised to see it either because I mean we've been kind of hearing this from the Caps organization and Robo in particular that he wants to not put him in every game.
But he's the Caps' best player right now.
Yeah, I know. But then there's that whole question of development, right?
Yeah,
do you throw him in every game and then burn him out and make him what was it?
Freddie Adu.
Freddie Adu. Yeah. Or do you give him time and then give him time to recuperate and reflect on what can you do better for the next game? So
Gideon, you think he'll play this week?
Yeah, I honestly like to kind of contradict Nick. Sorry, Nick, but I think if he's your best player and he's creating chances and he's playing not just attacking style, but he's played defensively as well with that left wing back role in the lines. I think you have to have him out there. Honestly, 4 games into the season, you can sub him out early in the game if he gets tired. It's not a issue of starting and putting him on late. I think he will start and probably come out earlier in the game. But I think if he's your best player, as Nick said, you have to have him out there.
But for me, I think there's so many things as like people who look at the team from the outside that we just don't know, right? Like things like what's Davies' mindset right now, and like a lot of things that we take for granted, like squad harmony and things like that. Like we don't really see what actually happens, right? So I think it's a case of that really. That like where's Davies' head at right now? Is he focusing on his development enough? Is he like getting a little bit too over the top, like getting too overconfident? Like that. Those are things that Robbo has to observe and then manage, right? Yeah. I think that'll very much be the situation. We're gonna have to see. It'll be Robbo's call ultimately, and that's the only call it should be. I would like to see him play. Like he's been our best player. Like if man of the match wasn't Budweiser, he'd be man of the match like maybe 2 or 3 times this season already. So that's a big question. We have had a question from Gareth Wolf. He has 2 questions actually. A lot of people asking 2 questions. I do like it, but it's like 2 questions.
Doubleheader.
Yeah. Question number 1. Do you think Robbo will take the Galaxy's depleted state into account with his team selection and give someone like Levis, David Norman Jr., or Fittis a chance to start? Gideon, what do you think?
I'm going to say no. I think it's too early in the season for that. We need points at home.
Okay, Nick?
I wouldn't mind seeing, some rotation for them. Because it is going to be a weaker LA Galaxy team. Now, it would be good to get some rotation going, I think. Robo's always talking about fighting for spots. Well, competition. Let's see some competition for some places, right?
Yeah. I think I wouldn't mind seeing it, but only from the bench. I wouldn't mind seeing rotation. If the game's 2-0 at the 50th minute, bring Fidesz on, bring David Norman Jr. The moment David Norman Jr. takes to the pitch, it's going to lift the stadium, right? It'll be such a special moment for for the club, really, not just for him and his family. So to answer your question, Gareth, I think we are all okay with varying degrees of rotation, but it does depend on the result. If he rotates and then they draw 0-0, what a huge chance missed, right? In this conference, you need to put numbers on the board. Garrett's second question is: the MLS transfer window closes in 6 weeks. Do you expect any new signings or departures before then? I'm going to start out and say maybe a departure or two, but no new players coming in, I think.
I would kind of agree with that. I'm the two people that I could think of was Breck Shea.
Yeah.
Now, actually, he's been quite good coming off the bench.
Absolutely.
But again, I think we've talked about it a little bit already in previous podcasts where his contract is just way too much.
Yeah. It just turns teams off, right? Even he has a level of marketability about him because he's a former U.S. men's national team player, played in the Premier League, but that salary is just not a salary cap team. And
then the other person that I think, when I was looking through the roster, I think Debbie Flores is still on our roster.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
And I would hope that he can move on.
Yeah. I like Debbie Flores.
Yeah. He was okay, but it just didn't pan out.
He's better than Jordan Smith. Gideon, what do you think? Transfers?
Yeah, transfers in, no. I think Arfield, is going to have to wait. I don't think you can really, change up your squad early on in the season, or at least add a player. It might break up the chemistry that they've built. Departures, I think I have to agree with Nick. We might see Shea go, if not now, either in the summer or next transfer into next year. So I think there'll be a departure, yes, at least one.
Okay. Well, thanks, Gareth, for your question. Moving on, we've received news that Kai Kamara and De Jong have been training this week, and it looks like both of them would be able to play. What do you guys think as far as a decision to allow them to play? Kamara had groin tightness. At his advanced stage, you got to watch small injuries like that. And De Jong had that really scary situation with contusion. Yes, in Houston. Would this be a chance to give them a rest or get them back in there, back on pace
to play?
Okay,
yeah. Because I think hold-up play is going to be needed, and there's going to be a lot of second balls that, it would be great.
I should mention, too, that the Caps have 2 road games after this, so maybe that should be taken into account.
I think De Jong is going to play because we don't have much at the back right now. We don't have 3 center backs to play. I think for this game, Kamara will probably start on the bench, I think, anyways, because Blundell didn't play terrible in Atlanta. There's no reason to rush Shea back. As Joe mentioned, we have some tough away games, and Kamara plays pretty well on the road in his MLS career, so I think that could play into it. And as well, I wouldn't mind seeing Blundell and Reyna play together.
We've had another question from Rituro. He asked Nick and I a football manager question, so we'll just address that really briefly. He asked, if you were to recreate Robbo's favored 4-2-3-1 in Football Manager, what player roles would you set for the 11, and what tactical approach would you have? So, for those of you who don't know, you can have mindsets in Football Manager. It goes from defensive to counter. I think Robbo is more of a defensive man.
Yeah, I think
that's what I think. As
a box-to-box midfielder, or
and then a deep lying playmaker or something like that. Homing playmaker.
You'd have some AM of some kind, perhaps, or winger on it. Yeah,
and in the back, it's just not ball-playing defenders.
Yeah,
that's basically the only part. Let's go through the lineup and let's see if we can agree or disagree on any specific positions. I forget, did we all agree on a 4-2-3-1? Was that the formation we thought it was going to be?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Except for you.
I said I would be okay with a 4-1-4-1, but I think a 4-2-3-1 would be more attacking, so I'm going to go for that as well. In goal, Marinovic, or do we give Brian Rowe a chance against his old team?
No.
Okay,
no.
Right. That's fine. I'm sure Brian's okay there on the bench.
One of these games, Joe. One of these games.
Left back, we see De Jong slot back in there.
I think so, yeah.
And Gideon, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Mond and Aha in the back.
That's really all you have.
Like if you said like 2 months ago to me that Mond and Aha would be starting in the back, I would have thought like the end of the world would have happened or something. Or Waston was transferred.
Traded,
yeah, exactly. And Parker too. Anyway, right back, Nerwinski or Franklin?
Nerwinski.
Yeah, Nerwinski. He hasn't done anything to lose that position.
But Franklin needs his first game. This would be a good game for his first game, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, if he was to come in, I think he'd come in for Dion, not Nerwinski. But
okay, isn't he primarily a right back, or can he play?
Yeah,
left
but he can play left back. Yeah.
Okay, center mids for the 4-2 part. Tybert and Juarez. I have any other thoughts?
I would agree with that. I mean, Tybert, he's genius going forward that I think they'll need.
Maybe Felipe could go there.
Felipe could also go there. I mean, he showed.
He has key passes.
Yeah, there was definitely a key pass.
The
Gideon?
only issue I have with Juarez is his yellow cards that he's accumulated already this season. He's had 2. That scares me a little bit just because it's tough to have a player suspended early on in the year with Gazal still out.
Okay.
But I think it's going to be Juarez and Tybert in this game, yeah, for sure.
Okay, then we'll move to the attacking midfield. The wide left position, I'd like to see Alphonso Davies there.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind that. You know, he has been our best player.
Who's the alternative? Breck Shea?
Yeah, I mean, like, Breck Shea has been good. He's come off the bench. He's done a good job, you know, in the games. He's scored a goal off the bench.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing him. I mean, he gives a different dynamic, for sure.
Gideon, attacking midfielder on the left?
Davies.
Okay. In the middle, I think it's time to give Reyna a start, personally.
I wouldn't mind seeing Felipe a little bit more forward in this game.
It really is becoming an issue how we fit those 2 players in. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it doesn't evolve into a bigger issue. But Gideon, what do you think?
It's a good thing, though. It's a good thing to have 2 players like that. Reyna, for sure.
Okay. On the right then, Teixeira, our home player.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. And up front, I think Kamara. If he's back, he's got to play.
I would like to see Kamara again up front. I think would be good.
I would love to see Kamara play. I'm just hesitant with the groin issues because they're so hard to deal with and get over. And I think if Kamara's healthy, he'll play 100%. But if he's not, I think Blondell will start.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's been our preview for the Whitecaps strategy before they approach this LA Galaxy game at home. Before we move on to our prediction game, patent pending, we're just going to go over an article that came out today. So every year the ESPN do a confidential survey of MLS players. And every year, a bunch of players answer questions unless they play for NYCFC for some reason. And they all have to answer these hot topics that we fans discuss, but we finally get to hear a player's perspective. So I'll ask the question to Nick and Gideon, and they have to give me a guess and tell me what they think the players would have said. So, what would the first question one of the first questions they were asked is what part of the league would you get rid of? What aspect of the league do you think is something that they would change? I think the way it was phrased was, if you were the commissioner for a day, what would you change?
Oh, probably the free agency.
Okay, Gideon, what do you think?
I think the breaks for international windows.
Okay, both of those were part of the thing, but it was the salary cap system. 36%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you think the players are pro-rel or anti-pro-rel?
I think they're probably pro-rel.
Okay. Gideon?
I'll take pro-rel for 5,000.
They were 62% yes for promotion relegation.
Okay, yeah.
Was VAR a positive or a negative thing? So there's 3 options: positive, negative, or too early to tell.
I would guess that they would think it's positive. I feel like a lot of players have wanted something like this.
I think with the outlash of a few decisions, I think it's a little bit negative for right now anyway.
Okay, 58% positive, 29% say it's too early. If the players were asked, do they need a new playoff format? What do you think they said?
No.
Yeah, I'm going to go with no, too.
61% said yes.
Oh.
They didn't like the break.
Wow.
They didn't like the international break in the...
Okay.
Well, that's one of the quotes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I love these ones. Most overrated player.
Most overrated player? Oh, man.
And these are usually spread out because I think they try and cast shade on other players. But one guy had 11% of the votes.
11%? Most overrated.
Yeah.
Wait, can I answer?
Yeah.
Josie Altidore.
He was tied for third with 7%. So the number one was Giovanni Dos Santos, got 11%. Michael Bradley got 10% of the vote. And tied on third with Josie Altidore was Giassi Tazardes. Most underrated player? What do you think the players said? That's a nice title to have. Most underrated player as voted by your peers.
Most underrated.
It was Ignacio Piatti. 7% of the vote.
Chris Wondolowski. Okay.
Yeah.
Dax McCarthy was second with 6% of the votes. Toughest opponent as voted by the players.
Toughest opponent. Like toughest player or toughest
person to play against.
Toughest person to play against.
Javinko was 10% of the vote. Tied with him was David Villa, and Waston was third place with 4% of the vote.
Wow.
And he's the highest ranked defender in the whole toughest opponent thing. This was a good question. Do you understand MLS rules?
No.
No.
Nobody does.
Only 50% of the players said yes. And then a bunch of them said sort of. Okay. Which coach would you like to play for? 23% of them said the one coach.
Vieira?
Yeah, it was Patrice Vieira. And which coach would you least like to play for?
Ooh.
Sigi Schmid.
I think he was on the list. I can't remember though.
Least like to play for.
It was Wilmer Cabrera for Houston.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't write down the percentage, but I think it was quite high. Are you happy with the salary structure?
No, probably.
No.
Yeah, 82% said no. Hardest stadium to play in?
Ooh, probably
Seattle
or Portland.
It was Kansas, actually.
Kansas?
I think their stand is really close to the field.
Oh,
so
the Blue Cauldron.
The Blue Cauldron creates a really good atmosphere. Okay, so we'll move on to the last part of our show. It's our prediction game. So just to recap what happened last week, Nicholas triumphantly got 2 out of 3 predictions. Almost got the third one. So Felipe did.
Sound the klaxon.
The end is nigh. Felipe did have 1 key pass. The Caps did give away a penalty, but instead of having 3 offsides, the Caps had 4 offsides. That was your one off. Gideon also got 2 out of 3, so that's really good. The Whitecaps did give up a goal on the counter. I think it was Joseph Martinez's second goal. 3 yellow cards for the Caps. That's bang on.
Yeah.
And 6 saves from Marinovic. He only actually made 1 save.
Should have thought that through.
I said that Kai Kamara would not score a goal. He didn't play, so we're not even going to count that. I said that Tybert would have a yellow card. He didn't play either. Almiron did get an assist, so I got 1 point. So the season standings currently are Gideon and myself on 4 points, and Nick off his duck egg with 2 points.
All right.
So let's get your predictions for this week, Nick.
Okay, I think the team will have 20 dribbles.
The team will have 20.
The team overall will have 20 dribbles.
It's like you find the hardest stats for me to look up after the game.
Joe's gonna have a field day with
key
that one,
passes,
sure.
and it's so hard to find a website that did key passes.
Passing accuracy for the team overall will be around 80%.
Okay.
And the Caps
Yeah, give us
plus minus
2.5. Those were the metrics we said at the first show.
Plus minus 2.5.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yes,
I think that's fair. And I believe the Caps will also score 1 goal before the half.
Okay, good. Gideon, your 3 predictions.
Nerwinski will put 4 crosses in the box, so with Ashley Cole gone, he's going to get lots of room.
Okay.
Whitecaps score off a set piece.
Okay.
And Aha Rahman make a defensive blunder.
Ooh.
Okay, so is that an error that they categorize it as?
Yeah,
okay.
An error.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. My 3 predictions are Kamara will hit the woodwork, Leggett will get a yellow card, and less than 4 corners for the LA Galaxy. Okay, right before we finish up, and you guys let people know where you can be found, Aaron Campbell has an unconventional question, followed by a more conventional question. That's why we left it towards the end. Is episode 2, season 2 of Master of None the best episode of any show ever made? I don't watch Master of None. Do any of you?
I don't actually watch Master of None.
Gideon?
Aaron, no, wrong question, man. We don't watch Master of None.
Wrong podcast.
Yeah, Aaron, you might want to direct your questions to Footy Soldiers or From the Backline or something. They might have an answer. Also, with all of LA Galaxy LA Galaxy's players out this game? Will the Caps let their guard down and not put forward the effort they should? I think probably.
Joe has the crystal ball out and is saying probably.
I think most likely. Yeah, okay. So let's give our contact information to people if they would like to direct any shade towards us.
Yeah, Space Age Robot 56.
And before you do that, Michael McCall has a question for Nick. At what stage? At what stage does a robot stop being space age and is just a modern day?
That's a pretty good question. Now, it depends on how we're defining modern day, because modern day starts like pretty early. Like historically modern day starts pretty early. And the space age definitely started in like 1956, 57. So, yeah.
And you were born in like 80s?
I was born in like the 80s.
Yeah, okay. So. Anyway, Gideon, where can people find you on Twitter?
At Gideon Hill 18 on Twitter.
And you can find me at Joe DC Van. Thank you very much for listening. Please get in touch if you have any questions or you would like us to include anything that you would like, and enjoy the game.
When you're listening in some far-flung corner of the globe to the World Service of a Saturday afternoon, crackly reception, interference, cosy, marvellous. Somehow comforting, isn't it? You know, legendary names, fathers and sons on the terraces, cheesy peas at half-time, pint for dad, mum's at home making the tea. Oh, everything's all right with the world, isn't it? Saturday afternoon is football.